welcome to the deep dive. This is where we sift through, stacks of sources, articles, research, all that stuff. And we try to pull out the really important nuggets of knowledge. The goal, to help you, our listener, get genuinely well-informed.
Which is harder than it sounds these days.
It really is. And today, we're diving into something that feels, well, incredibly central to daily life now. That overwhelming flood of information.
Constant.
Yeah, often contradictory information, especially when it's about high-profile allegations. Think about the last big story that broke.
Right. Or some claim about a public figure.
Exactly. How do you even start to sort through it all? The sheer volume, the competing stories, the, emotional pulls to find what actually matters.
That's the real challenge.
So our specific subject for this deep dive is a perfect example of this challenge. The allegations around Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
A very charged topic.
Extremely.
Yeah.
But look, we're not here just to recount the claims or rehash the same old debates. That's not the point.
Right.
Instead, we're looking at these allegations through a really specific lens. It's about the powerful, often pretty complex interplay between politics and media.
And how that shapes what we all think, public perception.
Precisely. We've gone through a whole stack of analyses, insights that's guided our exploration here.
Lots of material.
And our mission today is basically to distill that down into something useful for you. We want to help you understand not just what info is out there,
but how that information, and sometimes even more importantly, the lack of information shapes public understanding.
Yeah.
Especially now in this super politically charged environment.
Right. So let's get into it. Let's unpack this.
And, understanding this dynamic as you're scrolling through news feeds or listening to commentary, it's absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
It's honestly much bigger than just the specific Trump-Epstein stuff we'll talk about. It's really a core skill for making sense of, well, all modern political narratives.
That's a great point.
Because we live in this age where, yeah, information is everywhere, but clarity, that's often really scarce. So being able to see the mechanisms behind how stories get presented, or maybe how they're kind of strategically withheld, that's just paramount.
So what's not being said is just as important.
Exactly. And that's what's fascinating here, maybe a bit counterintuitive. We'll find that the information landscape isn't just defined by what is said, what's broadcast loud and clear.
Right. The headlines.
Sometimes it's what's not said.
Yeah.
What stays unconfirmed or what just never quite becomes solid, verifiable evidence. That can be just as significant, maybe even more so. It really peels back layers of strategic communication and political calculation that kind of challenge our first assumptions about how information works.
Okay, so let's start with this really fundamental question. It pops up again and again in the analysis we looked at. And it's a question a lot of people, observers, have asked because, well, on the surface, it just feels like basic common sense.
Okay.
The question is basically this. Why isn't Joe Biden or even Kamala Harris president? If Trump were on that list, that sounds like an election win slam dunk.
Right. That exact phrasing comes up.
It does. And that sentiment, it really captures something, a widely held feeling. You might even ask yourself, yeah, why is this such a persistent question?
It makes logical sense on the surface.
It does. It comes from this place of, logical skepticism. If you had a definite provable link
between someone like Trump and someone like Epstein.
Given how serious the Epstein case is and how polarized everything is, you'd naturally think, wow, that would be absolutely devastating.
Politically devastating.
To Trump's standing. For many, it just seems like an undeniable win, almost effortless for any opponent.
The slam dunk idea.
Exactly. And yet we don't see that definitive, widely accepted bombshell. And that absence, that lack of a clear revelation, leads us to this really big question about what's actually happening, or maybe what's conspicuously not happening.
It's a puzzle.
Yeah, it pulls you deeper into thinking about the strategy behind political information.
It really does. And our exploration, it consistently points to how verifiable information, if it existed, linking Trump to Epstein. Well, it would be seen as, quote, undoubtedly a potent political weapon.
Potent political weapon. Let's pause on that.
Yeah, think about that phrase. It's not just, bad press.
Right.
It's something that could be wielded, used with real strategic force in the political game.
Okay.
Our analysis suggests evidence like that would be used to just profoundly damage Trump's reputation, undermine his credibility, cripple his influence with voters.
You can imagine the fallout.
Oh, absolutely. Immediate erosion of trust, maybe demoralizing his base, swinging undecideds. I mean, historically, these kinds of allegations, moral failings, or associations with bad actors,
They get used.
they get leveraged with devastating effects sometimes. This isn't just theory. It's acknowledging how high-stakes politics and information actually work.
Okay, so it would be incredibly powerful.
Hugely powerful. And then our research also points to this expectation that if the Department of Justice, say under Biden, or maybe certain groups within the FBI,
Right.
if they really had concrete, verifiable proof, the expectation is they might be expected to leak it.
Okay, that sounds potentially controversial.
Well, it's not necessarily saying something illegal would happen. It's more about acknowledging the huge institutional and political pressures in that kind of scenario.
Gotcha.
Information, especially really damaging info, it often finds a way out through unofficial channels when the motivations are strong enough.
Leaks happen.
Links happen. And then connect that to the broader politics, it's pretty clear the Democratic Party has, a documented historical tendency to capitalize on any potential misstep by their opponents.
That's just politics, right? Both sides do it.
It's standard operating procedure in competitive politics, absolutely. Parties look for vulnerabilities, ways to get an edge.
Makes sense.
So you combine the massive potential damage to a rival, the historical habit of exploiting weaknesses, and the perceived power of institutions like the DOJ or FBI to bring stuff to light.
Then the expectation that this would be an election win slam dunk.
It becomes not just logical, but almost inescapable for a lot of observers. That phrasing, again, undoubtedly a potent political weapon, election win slam dunk, it just hammers home the perceived massive value this kind of revelation would have.
And the strategic need to use it if it were real and provable.
Exactly. If it existed in a truly verifiable form.
So, okay, if this information is supposedly this potent political weapon, then the really big question is, why haven't we seen it used, decisively? What does that absence mean?
Right. That's the critical point, because like we said, the absence of something can be just as informative, maybe more telling sometimes.
Okay.
And our deep dive shows this absence of official leaks or solid proof becoming front-page news. It basically suggests two main possibilities.
Two main paths here.
Yeah, and both actually make a lot of practical sense when you think about the tricky political landscape we're in.
All right, what's the first one?
The first possibility is, well, maybe the most straightforward. It just points towards a lack of verifiable information.
Meaning the proof just isn't there.
Essentially, that despite all the interest, the huge political motivation to find links, the intense scrutiny from media, investigators, the concrete, irrefutable evidence just hasn't surfaced. At least not in a form that really holds up under close examination.
What counts as verifiable here? What are we talking about?
Good question. We're talking direct official documents, corroborated testimony from multiple independent witnesses, solid digital trails.
Stuff that would stand up in court or pass muster with serious journalists?
Exactly. Findings from official investigations that could withstand challenges. If proof like that, of that magnitude, existed, it would be incredibly hard to keep under wraps.
Too many people would want it out.
Think about it. Journalists, political rivals, whistleblowers, even just citizens with a strong sense of right and wrong. The way information spreads now, completely suppressing solid, verifiable proof seems highly improbable.
So the fact that we haven't seen it,
its continued absence, suggests that maybe what's mostly out there are rumors, speculation, maybe some circumstantial stuff, but nothing that meets that high bar of proof, legal proof, journalistic proof.
Okay, so possibility one, this smoking gun just doesn't exist. What's the second possibility?
The second one is a bit more nuanced. It's more rooted in understanding political strategy.
Okay.
It's the idea of the strategic choice to avoid overreaching in the contentious political landscape.
Meaning maybe they have something but choose not to use it.
Or maybe what they have is partial or not quite definitive, and the risks of putting it out there could actually outweigh the potential benefits.
How so?
Well, political actors are always doing this risk-reward calculation, right?
Sure.
If you release information that turns out to be weak or uncorroborated or maybe misleading, it could backfire. Big time. Especially now when things are so polarized.
Like if it doesn't meet that slam dunk expectation.
Exactly. Then you get accused of a political hit job, a witch hunt, maybe even fabricating stuff.
Which could actually help the other side.
Right. It could energize the opposition, maybe turn off undecided voters who hate seeing politics look like manipulation.
Okay, that makes sense.
And beyond that, an overreach could seriously damage the credibility of the institutions involved. The DOJ, the FBI, even media outlets that push unverified claims.
Trust is already pretty low.
Exactly. Public trust is fragile. Any perceived misstep can have these long-lasting negative effects on legitimacy. So political strategists, they often think long-term. They want credibility, a solid narrative, not just a quick flimsy win that might fall apart.
They want to avoid the Streisand effect, maybe, where trying to push something weak just backfires.
That's a great way to put it. Pushing weak info can make it seem like the whole accusation is baseless or just politically motivated, amplifying the counter-narrative.
So either there's no real proof, or there's a strategic reason not to push what little might exist.
Precisely. And both of those possibilities, they kind of align with a common sense feel for how information works in high-stakes politics.
Because if there was solid proof...
Given its political value, given how opponents usually operate,
yeah,
you'd almost certainly expect it to be front-page news, dominating everything.
The fact that it hasn't, that it's still mostly conjecture or unsubstantiated claims.
That's a really significant data point in itself. And for you, the listener, this non-event, it directly shapes how you perceive things.
How so?
Well, if solid evidence did suddenly appear, it would confirm suspicions for some people, no doubt.
Right.
But because it remains conspicuously absent, despite everything, it understandably creates skepticism for others about whether the allegations are definitively true.
So the silence shapes understanding.
It shapes your understanding by showing that sometimes the most revealing part of a story isn't the shouting, but the silence.
Yeah.
And the strategic reasons behind that silence.
Okay, and that brings us to another really critical layer here. It's not just the silence shaping things, it's also the nature, the quality of the noise that does get through.
Right, because stuff still gets out there.
Exactly. Even without definitive proof, allegations fly around, they get traction, they definitely grab public attention.
Oh, yeah.
So the crucial question then becomes, what kind of information are we actually getting when these claims surface? How reliable is it?
Which leads us right into this idea of the fog of sensationalism and partisanship.
Yeah, that fog, it feels like it's everywhere in our media landscape today, an environment where the line between actual news and just narrative gets incredibly blurry.
It really does. And our deep dive, the source material, it's very clear on this point.
Yeah.
The allegations and stories that do manage to surface, especially in these high-stakes political fights, they often lack the rigor of credible investigation.
Okay, lack the rigor. What does that mean practically?
It suggests, basically, a shortage of verified facts. Not enough corroborated testimony from different independent sources, a real absence of official documents that would hold up under serious scrutiny.
Like in court or in a top-tier newsroom investigation?
Exactly. It's not just about, one person's story or an unverified anecdote. It's about skipping the hard work, the cross-referencing, the corroboration, digging for primary documents.
Yeah.
The stuff that defines credible investigation.
So instead of rigor, what do we get?
Instead, these narratives tend to lean heavily on what grabs attention, what creates instant buzz, and maybe most importantly, what confirms the biases people already have.
Plays to the base.
Plays to specific audiences, yeah. It reflects a more sensationalized approach to political discourse.
And what does that mean for the media itself? How does that influence news outlets?
Well, the analysis points out that media outlets may prioritize sensational claims over substantiated facts. And this is huge for you, the listener, because it directly affects your information diet.
What you end up consuming.
Right. In this constant race for clicks, views, engagement, which, let's face it, drives a lot of digital media today, outlets can get heavily influenced by political narratives.
So they amplify the exciting stuff.
They might amplify claims that are exciting, scandalous, emotionally charged, even if they haven't been fully vetted or if they're built on shaky ground.
Which creates a really tough environment for the public.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It means you're more likely to encounter conjecture and unsubstantiated claims rather than concrete evidence.
You see these big headlines.
Yeah, headlines that strongly hint at major connections or terrible implications, but then when you try to dig into it,
the actual proof isn't quite there.
Often, yeah. It's missing, or it's ambiguous, or it's based on a whole chain of assumptions rather than direct, provable facts.
And this sensational approach, it's not just entertaining people.
No, it actively shapes public perception, often by creating this sense of certainty or a strong gut reaction around things that are still totally unproven. It's a really powerful dynamic. It can easily mislead even people who are trying hard to stay informed. Makes it incredibly difficult to separate the actual signal from all the noise.
So it's not just about flashy headlines or clickbait. It's about trying to navigate this genuinely complex landscape. where telling fact from politically motivated claims is getting harder and harder. We talked about the absence of info, the quality of what is there. Now, how does this all get tangled up in the bigger political picture, creating this really difficult environment?
Precisely. Our analysis keeps coming back to this. The interplay between politics and media is complex, often muddled by partisanship and sensationalism.
Muddled. That feels right.
Think about trying to see clearly through thick fog that keeps shifting, or navigating rapids without a map. That's the murky waters metaphor that comes up in the sources.
Murky waters of contemporary political narratives.
Yes, and this complexity, it's not an accident. It's a direct result of, deep political agendas influencing media, and then media shaping politics through how they frame stories, what they choose to cover.
It's a feedback loop.
Totally. Partisanship means information often gets presented through a very specific ideological lens.
Filtering what you see.
Exactly. Filtering what gets reported, how it's framed, what details get highlighted, and crucially, what facts get left out or downplayed.
Which creates echo chambers.
It creates and reinforces them, yeah. People end up mostly hearing stuff that confirms what they already believe. Makes it so much harder to get a balanced view. The emotional investment in seeing your side win often trumps the calm search for objective truth.
So what's the end result of all this muddling, especially when there's no solid proof, like in the Trump-Epstein case?
The consequence is that claims like these, linking high-profile people to controversial figures, they stay relegated to conjecture or unsubstantiated claims.
They don't become accepted facts.
Yeah, right. That's a critical difference.
Yeah.
They might spread like wildfire on social media, get debated endlessly on partisan shows, become a talking point for certain groups.
But they don't achieve that status of verifiable truth across the board.
Exactly. They stay in this kind of limbo. Perpetual ambiguity.
Right.
Always fueling speculation, driving division, but never quite hardening into something everyone accepts as real, regardless of their politics.
That's why murky waters is such a good description.
It really is. It just highlights the huge challenge for you, the listener, trying to find the truth in all that noise, in an environment where information is constantly being filtered, framed, sensationalized through so many different partisan lenses.
Okay, so given this incredibly challenging environment, what is your role? How do you make sense of it? How do you navigate these currents?
Yeah, that leads us right to the need for critical assessment.
So, okay, what does this all boil down to for you? How do you, as someone trying to learn, trying to be an engaged citizen, how do you cut through all this noise?
And become truly informed.
Right. Not just about this specific topic, but any politically charged story that floods your feed. Our deep dive makes it really clear. Understanding this dynamic, the politics, the media framing, the information itself, it's absolutely crucial for anyone attempting to navigate the murky waters of contemporary political narratives.
It's not just interesting, it's vital.
It's a practical skill. For being a citizen today, without it, you're just constantly swimming against these strong, often hidden currents of bias and sensation, maybe getting pulled in directions you don't even realize.
That's very true. And while a healthy dose of skepticism about such allegations is warranted, that's basic critical thinking, right?
Sure. Be skeptical.
But our analysis keeps emphasizing that it's equally important to critically assess the motivations behind the information, or lack thereof, that circulates in the public domain.
Okay, so it's more than just doubting what you hear.
Much more. It's like being an active investigator of your own information intake.
How so?
You're not just asking, is this true? You're digging deeper. You're asking, okay, why am I hearing this story now from this source?
Who benefits if I believe this?
Exactly. Or who benefits if I dismiss it? And maybe the trickiest one, why aren't I hearing other things? Why hasn't certain information been verified?
It's about seeing the strategy behind the headlines.
Precisely. And this assessment, it has this crucial two-sided nature.
Okay.
First, when you actually encounter information, you look at its presence. What's the source? How solid is the investigation behind it? Is it actual evidence or just speculation? Or maybe a carefully worded hint? Or a leak with no paper trail?
Understanding the source, the quality, the potential agenda.
Fundamental. Then, just as important, you have to actively consider the absence of information.
The silence again.
Yeah. If a claim is everywhere, seems politically useful to one side, but consistently lacks official backing, or credible reporting from diverse, nonpartisan sources, you have to ask why.
Is it just unprovable? Or is there a strategic reason it's not being confirmed or pushed harder?
Right. Is there risk of legal problems, fear of undermining other goals, that kind of thing?
Okay, so presence and absence both need scrutiny.
Absolutely. Our analysis really reinforces this. It says public perception gets profoundly shaped not just by what is said, but also by what is not said and the perceived political motivations behind it.
That's a subtle but powerful point.
It really is. The silence, that lack of the slam dunk, we talked about it, can speak volumes. It aligns with common sense if that kind of definitive, weaponizable evidence just doesn't actually exist in a verifiable way.
If the motivation and the means are there, but the action doesn't happen.
Right. If the political will, the institutional power, the huge motive are all present, but the damaging proof just keeps failing to materialize in a solid, impactful form,
Yeah.
well, logically, that should make you pretty skeptical about the original allegation itself.
It's not about automatically dismissing things.
No, not at all. Or blindly trusting one side. It's about demanding a higher standard of proof and understanding the complex web of forces that shape what we even perceive as truth, especially when the political stakes are this high. So as you encounter future high-profile allegations, or really any complex political story, we really encourage you, keep this dynamic in mind.
Don't just react to the headline.
Exactly. Don't just absorb the loudest voices. Push yourself to think critically about the source, the rigor of the claims, and, crucially, what might be missing from the story and why it might be missing.
Ask yourself what real evidence would look like. Consider the politics surrounding it.
Yes, that disciplined critical thinking, that habit of looking for the currents underneath before you jump to conclusions, that's honestly your best tool.
For making sense of this complex, often politicized, often murky information world we live in.
It empowers you. It lets you build a more accurate, more robust understanding of what's really going on.
Wow, that was quite a dive into the strategic underbelly of information, wasn't it?
It really gets complex quickly.
Yeah. We've unpacked how just the absence of evidence can be a political signal itself. How sensationalism often beats out solid investigation in the media race.
And how partisanship just muddles everything for everyone.
Right. But the key takeaway here, it feels really clear. In this world just drowning in information, especially politically loaded allegations, understanding the politics and the media dynamics behind those allegations, that's not just nice to have, it's your superpower.
It's a good way to put it.
It's what lets you move past just reacting to headlines and actually start to grasp the multiple forces shaping what you see and hear.
To understand the shaping process itself.
Exactly. And as we wrap up, here's something to maybe chew on, a provocative thought for you.
Okay.
If the potentially most damaging information about a public figure stays unsubstantiated, just keeps lingering as conjecture, despite all the scrutiny, all the political motivation to make it stick, what does that tell us? Not just about that specific allegation, but maybe about the real power dynamics of information control in our society. Like, what other stories, maybe ones that aren't so dramatic or visible, might be getting shaped or unshaped by similar forces? By strategic silence, by media priorities, by political calculation?
That's a big question.
It is. It goes way beyond the specifics we talked about today.
Right.
It touches the very fabric of how information gets made, gets consumed, and ultimately how belief itself forms in our world.
That thought really hits home. It captures the ongoing challenge, but also the opportunity for critical engagement that we all have.
Yeah.
It just reinforces how valuable it is to constantly question the sources, the motivations behind everything you encounter every day, no matter how certain it seems.
Don't take things at face value.
Never. Approach it with a discerning eye. Look for what's there, sure, but also look for what's missing. And try to sense the political currents shaping both.
That active, nuanced approach.
It's vital. Vital for your own journey to becoming truly well-informed, way beyond just the latest headline or breaking news alert. It's about building this strong, resilient framework for understanding how information actually flows and sometimes gets manipulated in our society.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope you feel a bit more equipped now to navigate those murky waters.
Find the deeper truth.
Exactly. Until next time, keep digging.